I'm here to answer 7 questions. What have you not done yet that you would like to be part of your story or included in your eulogy? What a great question. I think my general answer to that is meaningful impact in multiple ways. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. I am a firm believer that we are all put on this earth for a reason. We have a purpose. So what I would like to be part of my story is that I fulfilled that purpose to the best of my ability and had meaningful, positive impact along the way. As an African American woman, issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion have always been critically important to me. And at this stage in my career, even more so. So when I think about what I want to be part of my story, it's having meaningful, positive impact on issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion. But it's not about me as an individual. It's much bigger and much broader than that. For those of you who don't know me, I am the first African American to be elected a partner in a major Delaware law firm. And that happened in 1999. And while I was very excited about my personal accomplishment, becoming a partner in my firm, I was also incredibly disappointed that I was being celebrated as the first in 1999. So that solidified my desire and my commitment to really trying to have positive, meaningful impact when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So for me, that means educating others on those issues and why it's important. It means pushing those who came before me ahead to continue to do wonderful things and pulling those coming behind me along so that they can be successful in their careers. It means mentoring and sponsoring, not just within my firm and not just within this state, but nationally. It means working hard to try to develop policies and procedures that will impact positively DE&I issues and combat systemic racism. And it really means for me living my values and my principles and hopefully leaving this world a better place than I found it. So when I think about my story, I don't really want my story to just be about Doneene. I want my story to be about my accomplishments, but how they impacted the broader good. How my story and my path helped lead the path for others to come behind me, so that we're no longer going to talk about the first or celebrate the first. It will no longer be a news story. It will no longer be something that people get excited about. Because quite frankly, the longer we celebrate the first, the longer it's going to take us to accomplish the ultimate goal that we should all have. And that is a diverse and equitable and fair and inclusive world. So that's how I'd like to be remembered. So wish me luck and hope I get there. How has failure or apparent failure set you up later for success? Do you have a favorite failure? Well, let me tell you a little bit about my views on success, and that'll help give you context about my views on failure. So for me, success is a continuum of life. It's not one moment in time or one point in time or one accomplishment, but rather a series of accomplishments over life's journey. And at each and every stage of those accomplishments, it's doing better and doing more and accomplishing more. It's setting new goals and new standards and working very hard to get there. So when you have that as your mindset for success, it means you're constantly pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And when you push yourself out of your comfort zone, it also means sometimes you're not going to meet your goals in the time frame that you necessarily established initially. And when you think about it, that's a failure in some respects. I set out for this goal. I set out to accomplish it by this date, and I didn't meet that goal, so I failed. But I choose to look at the glass half full and not half empty. So I choose not to look at a quote-unquote failure from that perspective as a negative. I choose to look at it as a positive. Why didn't I accomplish that goal within that time frame? What could I have done differently? What did I learn from that experience? So for me, failure is something that we should all experience at multiple times in our lives and at multiple points throughout life's journey. Because if you don't experience failure, it means you haven't pushed yourself outside of your comfort zone. It means that you're living in a space where you're comfortable, it's easy, you're complacent. So my view on success really does highlight my view on failure. Now, the question about a favorite failure is an interesting one, and it takes me back to my childhood. I grew up in Philadelphia, and where I grew up, we had neighborhood races. You know, the kids would come out, and every neighborhood had a team, and you would race from one end of the block to the other. It was a big thing. Everyone who knows me knows Doneene is not athletic. I never have been, never will be. In fact, I will say Doneene and exercise rarely came in the same sentence until the beginning of the pandemic, but that's a separate conversation. But what's interesting about these neighborhood races is that even that long ago, it required equity on the teams, meaning you had to have gender representation, boys and girls. So I raced many times, and I lost each and every time. I was never athletic, never really focused on exercise. I failed each and every time. It was demoralizing in many respects. One day, as we're setting up for these neighborhood races, we're looking around, and my team needed one more girl, and I was the last one standing. So I'm sure my friends looked and said, "Oh, God, do we really have to have her race? We're doomed. She never wins." I thought to myself, "Oh, please let somebody else walk up. Let another girl walk up so she can be chosen to be part of the team." But I was it. I was the last one standing. So in that moment, it was critical for me to really become part of the team. And in that moment, I really started to focus on the team and not focus on me. I remembered my dad telling me time and time again, when you race, don't look down, look straight ahead, focus on the finish line, hold your head up, run as fast as you can, use your arms to help propel you. I don't think I ever did that, hence the reason why I don't think I ever not only won, but even came close to winning. I was left in the dust almost each and every time. But that day, I realized my neighborhood team was counting on me. They needed me. So when I heard 3, 2, 1, go, I ran like I had never run before. And we won. And we won because we had a boy and a girl, yours truly, cross the finish line. Now I could barely catch my breath. I felt like I was going to die in that moment. But at the same time, what an accomplishment. So you might be asking, well, why is that a story about failure when the end of the story is you won? It's a story about failure because I had failed each and every time previously. But in that moment, I would not allow those previous failures to define me. And that's why it's a story about failure. I realized in that moment that I had not been successful, that people viewed me as being, the weakest link on the team, but I also knew the team needed me. I didn't know that I would be successful at the end of that race. I didn't know that our neighborhood team would win, but I knew that I needed to put forth the best effort I could, because at that moment it wasn't about me, it was about the team. And that was the beginning of my 3 mantras in life. The first one is, you never give up. We're going to fail. As I said, if you're not pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and trying new things and trying to grow and learn, you're complacent. So when you try to grow and learn and push yourself, there are times when you won't be successful, you will fail. But you can't let that failure define you. You have to learn from it and grow from it. The second mantra is, it's not about me, it's about the team. It's about what can I do for my family, for my firm, for my team, for my group. And when the focus and the emphasis is no longer on me as an individual, but on the collective good and the collective success, that's important to me. The third mantra is, never, ever, ever overlook opportunities and possibilities. You never know when they will come, and you never know where they will come from. I would not have had the opportunity to be part of that race and to have experienced that win if I hadn't been the last girl standing. I would never have experienced that team spirit and that focus beyond me had I not allowed myself to take advantage of that opportunity in that moment. So when I talk to young people, I often say, for me at least, the most important parts of growth and maturity and development are stepping outside of your comfort zone and allowing yourself to fail, learning from that experience, but keeping yourself open at all times to opportunities and possibilities, because they can be life-changing, as they were for me. In the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life? My new belief and behavior is what I want for myself is enough. I'll repeat that. What I want for myself is enough. My entire life, I've had people cheering me on and wanting the best for me. And in that effort, they always say, Doneene, you should do this. You should take that internship. Law school's not a guarantee. Doneene, please take that job. You'd be great in that position. Doneene, you should join that organization because your skill set will tremendously benefit them. Doneene, you should attend this event. You know, representation matters. So for my entire life, I've listened to that, what I should do, how I should represent, the things that are important to others. Well, several years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And that was the moment when I realized tomorrow's not promised. And what should really be important to me is what's important to me. I needed to start to focus on what I wanted and my goals, and not necessarily focus on what others wanted for me. For many, many, many years, I felt like I was burning the candle at both ends and burning candle after candle after candle, you know, trying to be the best mom and the best wife and the best lawyer and the best partner and the best board member and the best community civic engaged individual. And it was exhausting. But in that moment, I realized, even though there was a lot of good that came out of that, the sacrifice in all of that was me. So when you're diagnosed with cancer, it makes you start to think about your life very differently. So I started to realize that there was a new journey that I needed to take, a personal journey that I needed to take. And that was to figure out what really was most important to me. What are the organizations whose mission I want to support? What are the organizations whose boards I think I can really be a value add? What events is it really important for me to attend? And what events is it not important for me to attend? So through this journey, which I'm still on, what I've come to realize is it's not about saying yes to every ask that comes to me from others, but it's about learning to say no when the ask is not a good fit for me. And that really has been a life journey. I'm in my mid-50s, and I hope I have a very long life still ahead of me. And as I just said, this is still a journey that I'm on. I can't say that I'm successful because I still often say yes when I should say no, so I'm still learning. But the fact that I force myself to focus on my principles and my values and where my time is best spent really has been an eye-opening experience. I mentioned a moment ago the focus on team and how being a part of the team and supporting the team is so important to me. Well, through this experience, I realize nothing should be more important to me than me. And so the belief and behavior over the last 5 years that's impacted me greatly, that I think will continue to impact me, is just that. What I want from myself is enough. What activities make you lose track of time? My family and my work. So you may be thinking, well, that's an interesting juxtaposition, family and work, both causing you to lose track of time. The common thread between the two is love. I love my family with all my heart. I'm married, we have one son. I'm a proud mom. You know, my 26-year-old has come back to Delaware. He's a lawyer here in this state, so mom is beaming with pride from that perspective. My husband, the partnership he and I have built over time, the love and friendship he and I have, there's nothing more important to me. So when I spend time with my family, it's easy to lose track of time. And it doesn't matter what we're doing, if we're out and about, if we're having dinner, if we're sitting and having a serious conversation, or quite frankly, if we just happen to be in the same room. Maybe not even engaged in the same activities, but we're in the same space. I love those moments because my family is that important to me. I also love my work. I love what I do. And that's an interesting statement for me to say because I often tell people, my practice found me, I didn't find it. I thought in law school I was going to be the next Perry Mason, and for those of you who are of the same generational age, you know what that means. But I thought I was going to be this great litigator and I'd be in the courtroom and life would be wonderful. I realized through a series of internships that litigation really wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't right for my personality, so I decided to become a transactional lawyer. When I joined my firm, the firm asked, "What departmental preference do you have?" Well, I had not interned at my firm, so I wasn't necessarily sure of what the options were. So my answer was, I don't have a departmental preference. I simply want to be a transactional attorney. So I was placed in my practice group, Trust and Agency Services. And what I do deals. I do structured finance and securitization deals, and this is what I've done for almost 30 years now. And I genuinely love what I do. I love the art of negotiating. I love the fact that no two clients are alike. I love the fact that every deal is different. But I think most importantly, I love that 30 years in, there are still new deals and there are still new structures. And so that opportunity to continue to grow and learn and move beyond the comfort zone is exciting to me. So the love of my work is something that happened because I allowed myself to take advantage of the opportunity to practice in a space that I knew nothing about. Talk about on-the-job learning. So when I think about activities that cause me to lose track of time, it's any activity that I love. And from that perspective, it's my work, but more importantly, it's my family. What book do you most often give or recommend? And how has that book influenced you? The book that I most often recommend that's influenced me is Becoming by Michelle Obama. This book is interesting from a number of different perspectives. It's a book about life, the ebbs and flows of life, the ups and downs, the growth and maturity and change that we all experience as we live our lives. It's a book that highlights that life's journey is difficult. It's often difficult. And the challenges that we face throughout that journey are challenges, again, that we need to learn from. Michelle Obama gives a very open and candid account of her life's journey, and quite frankly, how it changed so significantly because she fell in love. She was a practicing attorney when her husband became an intern in her law firm. They met by happenstance because he was there that summer. And she certainly didn't know in that moment what life's journey would be for the two of them. Certainly had no idea that he would become the first African American president of the United States. But she allowed herself to follow life's journey and to follow love. That's a really difficult proposition because for a lot of people, for a lot of women, when you're focused on your career, you often think that personal life and professional life are completely separate. But this book highlights the fact that your personal journey and your professional journey often converge in ways that you never thought imaginable. But it's not just about falling in love in that personal relationship. It's about what that relationship allows you to do with the rest of your life. So the book goes through this very candid account, chapter by chapter, verse by verse, of Michelle Obama's growth as a woman, as a lawyer, as a wife, as a mother. It highlights the fact that these challenges are not easy, but your character is developed by how you react and respond to them. Your character shows whether or not you crater and give in and falter and give up, or whether you dig in and move forward and grow and learn. It highlights the fact that that process happens not only in your professional journey, it happens in your personal journey, and that your happiness in each of those impacts the other. If you're unhappy personally, it's very difficult to not have that impact your professional life and vice versa. But I think the main takeaway that I often share with people when I encourage them to read that book is that it's really about us as individuals and the recognition that self-love is the most important foundational element for love in any other aspect of our lives. And whether that's the love of a spouse, the love of children, or the love of work. So that book is reality. I think we often get caught up in the concept of what our lives will be like. I'll have this job by this age, and married by this age, and start a family at this age. And sometimes life has a different path for us. So the book highlights that if you allow yourself to follow life's journey and grow and learn along the way, you learn to love yourself, you learn to love those who are most important to you, you learn to love what you do because you're purposeful in identifying and choosing what you do, and you mature and grow at every stage of your life. And the ability to then share that growth with others to help them on their journey is really what the book is about. So for those of you who have not yet had the opportunity to read Becoming by Michelle Obama, I would highly encourage you to do so. What have you purchased or been given in the last year, valued under $200, that has most positively impacted your life? Well, let's think about that. Over the past year, we've been living through COVID. We've been living through a worldwide pandemic. The purchase that's most positively impacted my life are small crossbody handbags. And you may think, what? of all the things you could have purchased, a small crossbody handbag? Well, here's why. I am a big bag girl. The bigger the bag, the better. For a number of reasons. There's always electronic devices to carry. There's always cords. You never know what you're going to need, so you put everything in the bag and you take it with you. So my husband often says that my handbags are like luggage because they're so heavy. During the pandemic, I didn't leave the house often, but when I did, I wanted hands-free. I wanted to be able to use hand sanitizer as quickly and as easily as I could. I wanted to be able to wash my hands as easily as I could. I wanted to be able to open doors with my elbow and not have to worry about having a big bag on my shoulder. So the purchase of the small crossbody bag really was practical, I thought, from that perspective. But it's also been life-changing because it's made me think very differently about my approach to things. I mean, here I am in my mid-50s, I've always had enormous bags. Even the book bags and backpacks when I was a young girl, would weigh on my back, talk about shoulder pain and back pain. So this is who I've been my entire life. So the fact that at this age in my life, I've decided to take a very different approach has been life-changing. It forces me to think about, what do I really need? It's not about having everything. It's not about throwing the kitchen sink in the bag just in case you might need something. It's about being purposeful and intentional and recognizing if I'm going out to dinner, my needs are very different than if I'm going into the office. If I'm taking a flight, my needs are very different than if I'm driving my car. So the small crossbody bag is the purchase that's had the most direct impact over the past year, but it's not just because of the bag, it's because of what the bag stands for. It's made me grow more. It's made me think about what I need and what I'm doing in very different ways. I use that example because I think oftentimes we overlook the small things. We don't realize the impact that the small things have on us and our lives. We take them for granted. So the small crossbody bag for me is an example of that. It's easily overlooked because it's a minor purchase, and it was a practical purchase to be able to function during a pandemic. But the impact that it's had on me and my life, and that it will have on me and my life going forward, is tremendous. If you could broadcast a message to everyone in the world, knowing it would be received and remembered, what would it be? My message would be, you are special and your life matters. I think that's such an important message to get out. It doesn't matter what family you come from. It doesn't matter your station in life. It doesn't matter how much money you have, what role you have in your organization. What matters is that we're all human. What matters is that we were all put on this earth for a reason. I am a woman of faith. I believe my life is what it is because I have followed God's plan for me. And I shout that from the rooftops and the rafters every opportunity I get. But it's not about religion. It's about the recognition that we have a common bond and a common thread, this thing called humanity. And that every single one of us is here because we're special and we have a purpose. So I think our journey in life is to really try to uncover what is our individual purpose so that we can live to our best potential. And I think that's a message everyone needs to hear. We don't live in a world right now where there's a lot of kindness or caring. But if we think about that message, you are special and your life matters. Think about how that impacts not only the individual in that moment, but think about how that impacts the world more broadly. If you think of someone as special, you will think about them differently. You will be more inclined to be kind to them. You will be more inclined to be caring about them. You will be more inclined to be empathetic with them. And in the world that we're living in today, I can't think of something we need more. Kindness and caring and empathy is what I think is missing. And when I think about each of us as humans and the fact that we're each here for a reason, some of us figure that out sooner than others, but it doesn't mean the other person's journey is any less important. It doesn't mean the other person is any less special or important. What it means is we need to take a step back and recognize that regardless of whatever else is going on in this world, regardless of what we've been able to accomplish personally, each of us is here for a reason. And if we give one another those basic tenets of humanity, think about how much better the world will be. Think about how much better each of us individually will be. So I will end by saying, please, when you're interacting with people, think about you're special, your life matters, and be kind, and be caring, and be empathetic. I'll tie that back to the very first question. What do I want to be best remembered? Or what do I want included in my eulogy? I would love to know that when I leave this life, that my impact was for the greater good, that my impact was encouraging each person who I have the pleasure of coming in contact with during my life's journey to be a better human, to make this world a better world, and in doing so, to make it a better world for our children and their children and their children. So I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic. There's a lot of work to still be done, but I would say, please remember, everyone is special and everyone has a purpose. Thank you.